guys. I want to talk to you guys just a little bit about culture. This one's probably going to be a bit longer just because culture is really the root and the foundation of everything else that we're trying to do. It's the product, and everything else is downstream from that. So, one, understanding what our culture actually is really important for you guys to get a very solid grasp on. Hopefully, you've been able to observe the culture so far by participating in some of the other groups, to where now you actually have a really good glimpse of what the culture represents just because you've actually seen it in practice and seen it in operation. But I also want to just spend some time to make sure that you kind of understand the main tenets of what type of culture that we're trying to create. So that you can begin to model that to your group, and then the culture can be cultivated based on how you first interact with that and how you first establish that in your own group, and then begin to have others do the same and participate in the same. The first part of that is actually community itself. So dads are isolated, and dads are stuck in a cycle of being alone, both through just schedules. Schedules are a big part of that, but also through societal pressure, because there's a lot of societal pressure for dads to just kind of suck it up and do their thing and manage themselves and not expose difficulties that they're walking through. And so, first and foremost, we really want to create a place where somebody can make friends. We all need friends, and struggling is hard, but struggling by yourself is much more difficult. And so we just want to actually cultivate a place where dads can engage with each other, where they can actually have a place to, one, attend events, be able to go in proximity inside of their schedules and get connected with other dads. So you get to foster that and actually create a place where now dads can establish friendships that they just didn't have before. We've heard so many dads just saying, like, I just don't have many friends. And so we're trying to pull dads out of that so that now there's a very comfortable opportunity for them to just make friends and go do fun things and go talk about hard things and go engage with each other's families. And our events will be with families sometimes, with dads only sometimes, dad with kids sometimes. So part of that goal is, let's just create a space for them to not have to be alone anymore. And once you establish that, once you establish those things, just an opportunity to develop friendships, now inside of those friendships, you actually establish the second part of that, which is vulnerability without shame. And so part of the societal pressure for dads is stoicism, to where dads are supposed to just not expose their emotions. Dads are not supposed to talk about difficult things. Dads are not supposed to have these hard conversations. Dads are just supposed to suck it up and figure it out and do it on their own. And ultimately, I think that actually leads to even more, it perpetuates the problem, to where more problems begin to arise out of that, because they're just not in a place where they're able to actually have any sort of accountability, to be able to have any sort of brotherhood or friendships that they can rely on to share these difficult things and get feedback for these things. And so we want to create a community where you can be vulnerable about these things, and it's not shameful. It actually is a sign of strength. And that we can actually have honest and difficult conversations here. A lot of other groups, they like to squash the tough stuff that is, the hot topics of the culture or religion or politics. And you'll see more in the rules later, but we want to make sure that we're creating a place where if we're trying to have authentic community, where we talk about the things that are in real life, we can't shut down categories of conversation. So you, as a city leader, you get the opportunity to both foster and model these difficult conversations. Obviously, inside of those conversations, a level of mutual respect would be expected and required, and you guys get the opportunity to actually both demonstrate that as well as engage with those conversations to make sure they stay in a healthy place. But also, we want to create that space to where these difficult conversations can happen both on the digital front as well as in the personal front, in relationships or at barbecues or at fishing events or whatever. We want to give space for dads to not have to just struggle alone by themselves. A lot of our culture actually stems from some principles. We are Christians. The group is not a Christian group, but a lot of our principles that we're trying to build off of that do stem from some biblical principles. And so there's a verse that says 2 are better than 1 because they have a much greater return for their work. Because if one falls, the other one can help him up, but pity the one who falls and has nobody to help him. There's a lot of dads out there falling and just don't have anybody to actually help them. And we're trying to give them a place to say, no, two people are better than one. We'll be able to do this together better than you can actually do it by yourself. And there's one other verse that says, the one who isolates himself seeks his own desire and begins to forsake all sound judgment. So there's danger in isolation. Isolation actually perpetuates more bad decisions and leaves you at a place where your judgment begins to be lacking because you're left in your own mind for your own choices and your own decisions without accountability, without people to support you. And we just want to create a space where we can have these conversations, and dads are not pressured to just leave that stuff in their own minds and never talk about that stuff. This is a place where dads can be reminded that they're not alone. So one of the requirements for you in order to both establish and maintain this culture is what you model, the types of conversations that you yourself are actually posting in this. And that comes from proactive and reactive. That comes from you actually modeling vulnerability, or you actually modeling these fun conversations that we want to have that can help us just build camaraderie and have conversation with each other. But it also comes from what you allow, and this is more the reactive thing. So you'll see more in our rules. The rules actually are very helpful for what type of culture we're trying to establish, but you get to model that. And then when people are having their own posts or even talking about things at events in person, you also get to model what this culture is actually allowing by engaging those conversations and presenting alternatives in really respectful and in ways that actually challenge people's perspectives and make sure that the culture is protected at all costs. Because again, everything else stems from culture all the way down to partners, because our partner program relies on culture for it to be successful. And we like to say, once you establish a community of personal trust, then the natural result is that professional trust follows. But that actually has to be built on trust in order for this thing to work. And if leaders avoid discomfort or delicate conversations, then the culture actually has the potential to become pretty shallow. One thing that culture is not, I want to just speak to this briefly because this could become another BNI. It could become another Chamber of Commerce group. It could just become another networking club, or even a performance stage where people just are trying to highlight themselves. We're actually going to consider others more significant than ourselves and try to model that as a leader to where our interests are for the interests of others and not just for the interest of ourselves. And when we create that, the actual natural result of that is that this thing perpetuates off of each other to where everybody wants to support everybody instead of all the attention is on me. Everybody, please come support me. We don't want it to be a venting ground either, because it just could become a whiny group, a complaining group. When we talk about this is a safe space for vulnerability, it also has the potential to lead to where all we just ever do is just complain. And so accountability is necessary. I mean, as leaders, you have an opportunity to engage those conversations and say, man, here's some alternatives to this. Also, it's going to be good for us to actually not just constantly all of our attention on everything negative to where we're building each other up and we're encouraging each other and we're giving each other the tools to navigate their own situations instead of just being like, yeah, man, I hear you, everything sucks. Because really, if men feel pressure to perform, your culture is already going to be compromised. And so ultimately, I think you just get the opportunity to establish this. You get the opportunity to use that mall method to demonstrate this culture to everybody, then find people that actually can implement that culture on your behalf, assist them, let them begin to do the same with their friends. And now it's just a flourishing culture that just is really a cyclical flywheel of self-perpetuating growth inside of the culture that then you get to actually step back just a little bit from and allow the culture to kind of engage itself as you first established this. So